Hey guys, Andy from SinNerds here, and today we're actually going to do a collab video with Casey from eBay Miniature Rescue. So a while back I emailed Casey and I told him about these two corpse carts that I got from a buddy of mine in a box full of Death Army stuff. And I originally asked if he was interested in painting one up for one of his videos, and I was just going to paint the other one and post it to my Instagram. So Casey replied back to me and said that he was definitely interested and thought that I should do a video as well. So here it is. I sent Casey a corpse cart. I kept one here with me. And today we're going to watch the process of what I did to this old broken corpse cart. For the first color on the corpse cart itself, I went with 50/50 Skaven Blight Dinge and Steel Legion Drab. I wanted a really dark and dingy look to this wood, so I chose that as the base for it. So next I'm just taking Steel Legion Drab by itself and doing a Zenithal highlight to that original base color we just put down. So next I'm going in with a quick wash of Agrax Earthshade just to bring out that definition of the wood grain a little bit more. And then to bring out the highlights on the wood grain, I'm coming in with a dry brush of P3's Menoth White base. So I wasn't too happy with how the dry brush looked on the carved parts of the wood, so I went back in with Xandri Dust and P3 Menoth White base again through the airbrush. So next I'm just going to go through and base coat all of the metal parts that are supposed to be silver with Vallejo's Model Air gunmetal. And I'm sorry for all the jump cuts through here, but I mean there was just so much parts to this model that I felt if I didn't do jump cuts and speed up certain parts that this video would be way more than 25 minutes long. So now I'm going in with Balthazar Gold for all of the parts that I wanted a brassy copper look, which would be this ornamental head on the front and then the two torches on the back. So here I'm going to start the green fire, and the first thing I want to do is darken the tip of the flame. So I'm going in with some Dark Panzer Gray by Vallejo Model Air, just to give it, I don't want it like black, but a soot type of black, so I chose that color. And then just to reinforce the undershading for the inks that I'm going to put on after, I went back in with some white ink. Just kind of did like a quick zenithal. So I don't go super crazy with this fire. I kept it pretty simple actually. This is a mix of Liquitex Vivid Lime Green ink with some contrast Aethermatic Blue, and that's going to be my base for the flames. And all I did here was add a couple more drops of aromatic blue to try to get like a bluish green, trying to do like a transition of heat from being lighter where it's hotter to darker where it's cooler. So for the majority of these base coats, I'm just keeping them really simple. I've been trying to challenge myself lately to use less colors. Usually when I paint something, after, you know, an hour, I'll look around and I'll have 30 different paint pots in front of me. So I just try to utilize the same colors in different ways by either adding ivory to it or black to it instead of grabbing an entirely new color off the shelf. So I couldn't figure out what color I wanted to paint these bottles, and I was looking at my shelf and noticed I had Scale 75's Violet that I hadn't even opened yet. So I opened it up, shook it up, and painted them, and I liked the way it turned out, and I actually used it again on the same model. So this is one of my techniques for rust. If you haven't watched my video on 4 different ways to do rust on miniatures, definitely go check it out. Everything I do in this video with pertaining to rust comes from that video. So from here on, I'm starting the wash phase on the corpse card itself, and it's just super basic, really simple washes on all of the base colors. So another Scale 75 color on my shelf that I hadn't used yet was deep blue, and I wanted to do a transition of purple to almost black, so I figured I'd try this out too, and it worked out good. So after I saw the green fire with the purple potion bottles, I really liked the way the colors work together, so I figured I'd do the Necromancer's robes in purple as well. And here I just added a touch of the Menoth white to the pot of the airbrush, and that's how I got my highlight color. If you start watching my videos more as I produce more videos, you'll see that I use that color a lot to make highlight colors of almost every color I use. So for his skin tone, I wanted to go really pale, and I like Wraithbone as a color, but I hate its coverage. So I mixed it with Rakarth flesh, and that's what I based his skin tone in. And again, I'm recycling colors here. I'm using Xandri Dust for the bone on the whip and for his teeth. And I'm sorry about the exposure on these shots. I don't know what was going on with my phone's white balance or auto balance or what it was, but it just got super bright. For his robes, I didn't get any pooling, but I wasn't too concerned with it because his back is facing the gate on the corpse cart, so you wouldn't really see it anyway. That's why I kind of just slopped it on there like that. For his eyes, I'm going to call back to that green fire, and I'm going to paint him in a glowing green. And just to get a little bit more definition to his eye before I go in with the green, I'm just doing a black line with Gnome Oil. So for the portion that's glowing on his face around his eye, just remember to pull your brush towards his eye, because you want the end of your stroke to end where the light's coming from. That way you don't have a pool of glaze way up on his forehead or something. So I was playing around with some different combinations for like a dead zombie flesh, and this is what I came up with. It's 1:1:1 Celestial Gray, Cadian Flesh Tone, and Ogren Camo. So for the wash to go along with the skin tone, it's 1:1 Seraphim Sepia and Drakenhof Nightshade. It kind of gives it like a brown green tone. It's not as strong as like an Athonian Camo shade, but I think it fits it perfect. And then to bring some simple highlights back, I'm just doing a quick dry brush over it with the same skin tone. So for the eyes on all the zombies, I'm doing it just like the Necromancer's eyes, except I'm using blues instead of greens. For all the black on the rats, I mixed some Menoth white with some black, and it gave it a nice, kind of like a warm gray tone. So for a lot of the corn red on this part, I do a lot of glazing. An easy way to do glazing is just water down your paint a lot. Like get more water than you normally would ever want in it. And then just wick off the brush on a paper towel and then use what's on the brush and pull it in, just like the eyes, pull it in towards the source you want it coming from. So a lot of the glazing, like right here, I'm doing sore skin. I'm glazing it towards that wound because I want the end of my brush stroke to end at the wound. And if you ever get any runaway glaze in a part that you don't want, you can either lick off or wick off your brush and then come back in with a clean tip and kind of feather it out. So for all the clothing on the zombies pulling the cart and the zombies in the cart, I'm just using one color. It's Thornwood Green by P3. And I chose this because it kind of reminds me of like Prisoner Dirty Linen, like fantasy style. Especially after you put a wash of aggressor shade on it, it darkens it down some more. So. And as far as the hair goes, I kind of just did a bit of everything. I did some black, some brown blonde, some gray. And again, with Seraphim Sepia, I'm just washing all the bones and the teeth. That skull was wicked simple because I just left it the zombie skin tone, and then I went over it with Seraphim Sepia. Worked out fine. So I know this is a huge jump, but the zombies on the front, I did all the same recipes as the zombies in the cart. Up until this point, the base, I didn't have one, so I 3D printed this base. I made it in Blender, and then I printed it and I painted it up. I have another video coming out for that separate. So now I want to talk a little bit about Blood for the Blood God. A lot of the time I see people use this paint and it's completely overdone. It's just slopped everywhere and thick and goopy. And I mean, in certain applications that's great, but when this paint really shines is when you use it thin down. And you can see here I'm using it with the glaze I did with corn red, and it's just adding more of an effect to the paint that we already laid down under it. And I think when you use it more subtle, it actually adds to the effect. And that is my finished corpse cart, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope Casey enjoyed painting his corpse cart as much as I enjoyed painting this one. It was actually a lot of fun. It's the first time I painted something like this, so it was really cool to try some different techniques and see how it all came together. So I hope you enjoyed my contribution to the corpse cart collab with Casey. Well, that's a mouthful. As always, go check me out on Instagram. That's where I'm the most active. And if you enjoy what I'm doing here, please hit subscribe. I appreciate you guys, and I will see you next time.